Hey folks, Jim McCallum here. We're on the deck of the USS North Carolina, which is the most decorated battleship in World War II. Gosh, we have so much to show you today. We have interviews, we have a formal presentation, so much to see here on the battleship, so stay with us as we explore more of our hometown.
Them to you, and those of you who are able to stand, I wish you would otherwise raise your hand. We have Chester Cross here, who's 96 years old. Dale States, 95 years old. William Venuti, 94 years old. Fred Pierce, 93 years old. Cy Reynolds, 92 years old. And me, John Camp, somewhere in between those ages. Who'd I miss? Just, I'm sorry, Fred Caddy. My error. I'd like to read you a poem that I think is appropriate, something that I found and it made sense to me. It starts out, when I was young many years ago, I joined the Navy. Why, I don't know. I served my time with honor and pride. For this young boy, it was quite a ride. I went to places I never dreamed. Time went fast, so it seemed. I met people I never forgot, and some I wish I had never met. But as I think back on those days gone by, my shipmates, brings a tear to my eye. I don't know then, never gave it a thought, but my time in the Navy could not have been bought. I guess we all feel the same after we're out. The pride we feel, that's what it's all about. Having served our nation, keeping it free, protecting our way of life and our liberty, and the friends I made along the way, would I do it again? You bet I would. And to my shipmates, anchors away. Sailor could find much in the Navy, comrades in arms, pride in the self, and service to his country, mastery of the seamanship, life of, and learning his trade. Here a boy could find manhood almost overnight. 15 crew members have left us forever. We're fortunate to have with us 4 of the widows of those seamen, and I'd like to introduce them to you and have them step forward, please. Rita Solano. She's the widow of Edward Solano Sr. Mary Baber, widow of Alonzo Baber. Mary Shate, married to George Shate. Foy Brewer, widow of William Brewer. Will you ladies please step forward and present yourselves, and we will have a wreath thrown over the side in remembrance of all of you. William S. Brewer Jr., William Brown, Frank Ensign Jr., Gordon A. Knapp, Raymond B. Mentor Jr., Ross C. Miller, Albert N. Minton, Edward F. Solano Sr., George D. Shate, Daniel Scroll, Billy J. Shate, Paul A. Stroop Jr., Ralph R. Thompson. May they rest in peace. Almighty God, you who hold within the hollow of your hand the living and the dead, we give you thanks for all of our shipmates who, in the course of their commitment to you and to this nation, have passed away, having served their country on the mighty fortress of the sea. Especially do we remember these dear friends now gone, whose memories are precious in our hearts in the passing of years. Grant to them the rest prepared for the faithful, and grant to us the commitment to the continuance of our work, unfinished until our life's end. Amen.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace, both now and evermore. Amen.
So in a functional life skills class, all of my students have disabilities, and we work on functional academic skills such as reading sight words, safety signs, and working with money and time. So I wrote this grant for adapted tools and materials so my students can better access their general curriculum. So each of my students goes out to general ed for at least one portion of the day. A lot of them go to enhancement classes such as art, music, PE, and library. So I ordered a kit of success balls for greater participation in PE and at recess with their gen ed peers. Some other materials that can be used in art, such as adapted scissors and markers. It allows them to be more independent while they're in the classes instead of depending on a teacher or their peers. They're able to participate alongside their general ed peers. I mean, it makes them feel good if they're able to also do the things that they see their friends doing. I'm very grateful that we were able to receive the funds from ATMC to complete this program. And I feel very thankful that we have such great community supports like ATMC to support our school and especially my students.
We're here on the deck of the USS North Carolina. It's my great pleasure and honor to interview Mr. Chester Cross. Mr. Cross, thank you, sir, and thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
You just told me a moment ago that you enlisted before World War II.
Yes.
And that you served both in World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War. 30 plus years, am I correct?
31 years.
All right. Let's talk for just a second about life here on the USS North Carolina where you served, correct?
Well, it was, for a while, it was tight, because we didn't have no facilities for recreation.
Right.
Yeah. So we lived it. And I enlisted in the Navy because I wanted 3 hots and a flop.
And you got it, didn't you? Yeah. More than 2,000 men on the ship.
The day the ship was commissioned, there was 2,000 of us on the ship.
Wow. You served in the Pacific, which is where most of the time, where the Carolina spent most of its time. And you were involved in the Battle of the Solomon Islands.
Yes.
This wonderful ship is the most decorated battleship of World War II.
Yes, it is.
And you were part of that.
Part of it.
What was your specialty? You were involved in...
I was gun captain in #1 turret, and the right gun was my gun.
Okay.
Right gun captain.
You're involved in the ship. You and the ship were involved in a number of great battles in the Pacific.
Yes.
Yeah. One of those was the Battle of Guadalcanal.
Yes.
Can you tell our viewers just a little bit about what it was like and what you recall?
September 15th, 1942, as we were protecting the Marines in Guadalcanal, we were torpedoed.
And the Marines were on shore, of course.
Yeah, sure. We were there to bombard the islands if we had to protect them.
And you took enemy torpedoes on the ship.
Yeah, in the ship.
In the ship. Thank you. Now, was the ship horribly damaged?
The whole left side of the ship was blown off.
And were you able to limp into port?
Yes.
And my research tells me that the repairs were done and the ship was back at it soon thereafter.
But yes.
Yeah.
When we were torpedoed, we were steaming to an island called Tonga Taboo
Yes, sir.
to bury the dead. And from there, we went to Pearl Harbor to get repaired and put a new left bow on it. And they hung all the steel and welded it for a few days and got us ready.
You have a keen memory. What are some of your impressions of all these 70 or so years ago of life on the ship?
Well, you know, it does the same thing every day. You trained, you went to your gun stations every time enemy was near or they detected enemy. And we went to general quarters and we stayed there for days.
Did you get a little mail from home every now and then?
No mail,
No mail, no communication?
no communications.
Right.
Uh,
And your ship was out at sea a month or two at a time or more?
At one time, oh yeah, at one time, the ship's propellers never stopped for 108 days.
Wow. And in my research, I read that USS North Carolina steamed more than 300,000 miles in the Pacific during the war.
Well, I've not known that because they had no friends in the navigation department, so I didn't
Right.
know. But I know I sat there and sat in the gun room with two others. It took 90 people, 90 sailors to operate number one turret.
Wow. 90 men to operate that turret.
One turret.
Mr. Cross, you live in Massachusetts now?
No, I live right in Franklin, Tennessee.
All right. Well, we are privileged that you have come to see us from Franklin, Tennessee, and we and all of us here today say God bless you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm here with Mr. John Camp, Lieutenant Commander, U.S. Navy retired. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your years.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for the compliment.
Yes, sir. We're here on the deck, of course, of the USS North Carolina, and you served on that ship in the mid to late 40s, I understand.
In 1946.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about what life was like and what you recall and what your duties were back in those days. Our audience would be really interested to know.
Well, I was a midshipman at that time, and we were on the training cruise in the Mediterranean, or in the Caribbean, and our purpose was to learn Navy lore. It's the first time that almost all of us had ever been on a ship,
Right?
and for me, it was the first time I ever saw salt water.
No kidding.
So it was an exciting adventure to get on here, and the gigantic size of this ship was unbelievable. To think that you could actually go to sea in something like this. Anyhow, the assignment that I had on board was to learn as much as I could while I was here, and they would assign all of us to several days in one department, then another department, and another department, so that we got to know everything that went on in the ship.
And so our,
as a man-
viewers will understand you were a midshipman,
Yes.
which means you were either attending or a graduate of the United States Naval Academy.
I was attending then, yes, correct.
Well, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say that I learned a little bit about everything and not enough about anything, but I got to see everything that was on the ship, and I think I've worked in every single department here except the post office and the sick bay. But everything else, from the bowels of the ship and after steering to Fire Control 1, which is at the very top of the ship.
Right?
I was privileged, of all things, to be able to fire this particular turret, all three guns,
Wow.
in a training exercise. And that's quite an experience, and I don't think I'll ever forget that.
And of course, you left the ship soon thereafter, but your involvement with this great ship continued on.
Well, they started a reunion when the ship was bought by, well, sort of, bought by the state of North Carolina,
Right.
and moved here in 1962. So a lot of former crew were still alive there, and they formed an association, and they've been meeting annually ever since.
And you've been president of that organization
Well,
and
only-
continue to be today. Is that correct?
Well, only for the last 3 years.
Okay.
We have a one-year term, and somehow or other, despite my protestations, they re-elect me president.
Well, it's an honor to serve and an honor to interview you here today.
Thank you.
Tell us what kind of career you had after the Navy. Did you retired?
I retired from the Navy. I acquired a law license, and I opened a law office in suburban Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I practiced law there for 30 years, tending to the needs of the neighborhood people that were there.
Excellent.
And then I felt that it was about time that I rested on my laurels and enjoyed some of the fruits of my career. And I moved to Florida so I could sail, which is
Good.
my first love. And you can sail all year round down there, you know.
Right, right.
So I've done that, and I'm still living there, and I still sail as much as I can.
And you're still in good health.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that.
For a gentleman of 90, how many?
3.
93. Well,
Almost 4.
You don't know this, but I'm a lawyer too.
Great for you.
Thank you for all these years of service.
Right.
God bless you, and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
I applied for the grant because we needed access to Chromebooks more on a daily basis. We had 3 desktop computers in our classroom, and we have a roaming cart that we would get maybe once every 2 weeks. So the Chromebooks allow us to have at least maybe a 2-to-1 ratio where kids can use the digital resources that Brunswick County Schools provides for us. And there are actually quite a few digital resources, but we need the devices in order to access them. We have textbooks that are 25 years old. So it gives us access to the real world of science, which changes every day. And we are able to use the Chromebooks, and we're able to go to websites and experience things that our textbook hasn't even thought about. We're just so very thankful that ATMC supports education in our county. It means so much to the students and the teachers here that we have community support and that they are willing to donate things that we may not have access to for years. It may be 5 years before we're one-to-one. So I'm now almost one-to-one thanks to ATMC. And without community support, we would be behind. So they're keeping us level with other schools, other districts, and other states because of community money from ATMC.
Thank you, ATMC!
We're here with Kim Sincox. Kim, you work here at the ship.
Yes, sir.
You're involved in the museum aspect. Tell us your title.
My title is Museum Services Director, and I've been here 29 years.
No kidding.
So I laughed, I said, I'm now at an age where I'm similar to the age the crew members were when I first started working here. And I've been knowing these men for and their families for 29 years.
That's a wonderful story. Wow, you have a lot of stories to tell. We talked before we went on the air, the museum is not just a room or 2 or 3.
Right. It's the whole thing. It's the visitor center, it's the ship, it's the parking lot, the sign, it's the entire complex. And what I think a lot of people wouldn't realize is we have a large archive. In fact, we collect and interpret all the ships named North Carolina. There have been 4 federal and 1 Confederate.
I learned that last night, yeah.
And we have artifacts and things going back from the 1800s all the way through the submarine North Carolina that's is a current submarine that's home ported out of Pearl Harbor.
You spend time on research, or is most of it working with the folks here at the ship? What's a typical day like?
Oh golly, is there a typical day? Well, my colleague, Mary Ames Booker, she is in charge of the artifacts, the archives, the ship interpretation and technology kinds of things, exhibits. And my role has become over the years, because my role has changed over the years, but currently my job is to manage the volunteers, and I do all the programs for, I do military programs, we do family programs, we do things that are scout friendly, we do a lot of adult programs, we do private programs, so it's just we have all kinds of programs that we do.
It's amazing, and I want our viewers to understand how many diverse and interesting programs we really have here at the battleship.
Oh, we do. People, I think, be surprised at the adult programs. People used to think about children's programs, and we do have a school program, and so we have family-friendly programs, but the adult programs are really something else. We have one called Hidden Battleship. That's a 4.5-hour behind-the-scenes tour. We have one that's on the guns and the fire control systems. People would be surprised that all the guns on this ship used computers.
Wow.
They were mechanical analog computers, and that program lasts from 8:15 in the morning till 5 in the evening. It's an entire day. We have one that's 5.5 hours on engineering, because the ship not only had to make all our own propulsion power, but electrical power, fresh water. You know, it was a very complex system. We have a program just on that. We have a program just on ship design. We're planning one on ship logistics. So there's many, and we have great programs for the military. We've also done them for things like engineering societies, or people from Chapel Hill and Duke who are going to be naval officers. We do engineering programs for them. So I think it's really great. There's one program too called Battleship 101. That's offered, gosh, probably a dozen times a year. We'll have between 50 and 60 volunteers stationed throughout the ship to interpret the ship, and it includes hands-on activities. It might be vintage typewriters with real North Carolina radio message paper, really left over from the war. Right. We have working rotary dial phones, working sound-powered phones. You can make your own stencil. You can do semaphore, Morse code. I mean, there's so many. Oh, we even have a digital simulator. You can fly the Kingfisher airplane. Right. And people don't realize this Kingfisher aircraft we have on our ship, it's one of only 8 in the whole world.
I learned that it was salvaged from somewhere in British Columbia, am I right?
Yes, in Canada, exactly. Yeah. It was a crash. It had crashed in Canada, and it was taken to Texas.
And beautifully restored, I might add.
Beautifully restored
Right.
By retired workers from Vought, Sikorsky. Now, currently, she looks beautiful because a group called the Flight Deck Veterans Group, they spent several months of stripping her all the way down to bare metal and repainting her.
Right.
And we could not have afforded to, first of all, we can't really take it off the ship easily. You can't get painting contractors here.
It belongs here.
And it belongs here. Yeah. And how do you get it painted properly? Yeah. So these people that used to be on aircraft carriers and stuff came and lovingly painted her.
Kim, in the minute or two we have, let's ask our viewers to come
Sure.
see the battleship. But,
yes.
But let's point out also that the battleship is one of the most well attended of all the attractions in North Carolina.
Yes, I think another big surprise for folks, we are a state museum. We're the state's World War II memorial, and we are state employees, but we are self-supporting. We do not receive tax money for our operations. The only time we ever get tax money is occasionally for, say, when we redid the teak deck or the new cofferdam. We'll get some tax money, but basically we are self-supporting. So.
And this is not your area of responsibility, but I want to say to our viewers, this area, the entire area, the grounds of the ship, they're so beautifully restored and maintained. It's just awesome.
Well, actually, that is part of my area, because you wouldn't believe it. We have over 160 volunteers.
I would believe it.
And every Wednesday, I have a group of gentlemen that come, and every Wednesday they paint every Wednesday. They can cut and install plexiglass. Every Friday, I have another group of gentlemen that come and clean the ship. We've never had that before. So it's the volunteers, and the volunteers run all the programs. They're all the tour guides. We would be sunk without the volunteers. They're intrepid. And for local folks, here's another great secret. If you join the Friends of the Battleship, you can come watch the July 4th fireworks here.
Which is an awesome. I've attended
that. Isn't that amazing?
It's unbelievable.
Worth the price of Friends membership.
Thank you so
Jim.
much.
Thank you.
Our message is come to the battleship.
Come to the battleship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, folks. We've had a great show. Please join us again real soon on Our Hometown.